What you see in this exchange between Senator Andy Kim and Secretary Kristi Noem is not just a policy disagreement or a tense back and forth. It is a profound example of what it looks like when democratic norms are tested, and when one side of the political system is desperately trying to preserve transparency, accountability, and constitutional integrity, while the other side tries to reframe oversight as a threat rather than a duty. Andy Kim's tone in this hearing is calm, factual, and grounded. He does what Democrats consistently believe in, moving away from theatrics and into substance. His questions aren't designed to embarrass or provoke. They're designed to clarify the truth, because that is the foundation of democratic oversight. And that's where this exchange becomes bigger than the room it happened in. Kim begins with a fundamental principle of governance. Congress has the constitutional authority to conduct unannounced oversight of federal facilities, including ICE detention centers. That is a right, not a request. It exists because, historically, when the government holds people in custody, abuses have often been hidden behind controlled tours, carefully arranged visits, and information gatekeeping. Oversight is the tool that ensures sunlight reaches places where the public has no direct access. But instead of acknowledging that shared understanding, Secretary Noem responds by painting the Democratic members who went to Delaney Hall as part of a mob, implying violent intent, criminality, and chaos. This is not an accidental framing. This is a deliberate reframing of oversight, from a constitutional mechanism into a political spectacle. And that is where the danger lies. When the executive branch begins characterizing lawful oversight as an attack, it becomes harder for Congress to hold them accountable. It becomes easier to dismiss transparency as political. It becomes easier for agencies to hide behind their own narrative rather than answer to the American people. And that's exactly what Andy Kim refuses to allow. He corrects Noem firmly, but respectfully. He reminds the public that these lawmakers were invited onto federal property by ICE. They were in the process of arranging a tour. They were not storming fences. They were not breaking in. They were exercising legal authority to observe conditions inside a facility funded by taxpayer money and operated in the name of the United States. This moment matters because Democrats have long warned about the creeping normalization of executive overreach, especially when it comes to immigration enforcement, detention practices, and the treatment of migrants. When oversight is treated as an intrusion rather than a necessary check, transparency suffers. And when transparency suffers, vulnerable people suffer in silence. Then the hearing shifts into territory even more alarming, the question of suspending habeas corpus, one of the most sacred protections in the Constitution. Habeas corpus is not an obscure legal term. It is the fundamental safeguard that prevents the government from imprisoning people indefinitely without charges. It is the barrier between a free nation and a police state. And its suspension has historically occurred only in extreme wartime conditions, and only through Congress, not the president. So when Kim asks Noem whether the president can suspend habeas corpus unilaterally, the expectation is that a Secretary of Homeland Security, someone deeply involved in federal detentions, immigration enforcement, and internal security, would know this cold. But instead, Noem expresses a belief that presidents should have this power, cites Abraham Lincoln incorrectly, and admits she doesn't know the constitutional clause, article, or branch responsible for this authority. And this isn't a small oversight. This is a stunning admission. Because the person claiming the government should have the right to detain people without trial does not know the constitutional constraints surrounding that power. To Democrats, this is not just a knowledge gap. It is a flashing red light. When people in high office misunderstand or ignore constitutional limits, it opens the door to abuses of the worst kind. Mistaken beliefs become dangerous policies. Misinterpretations become justification for violating civil liberties. Kim pulls the conversation back into constitutional reality. He makes it clear that Article 1, Congress, alone holds the authority. And he makes it clear that past suspensions were corrected or constrained by the courts. His point is simple but profound. The Constitution is not a suggestion. It is a safeguard. From there, Kim shifts into FEMA oversight, showing another core democratic value. Governing isn't just about ideology, it's about practical readiness. He asks whether FEMA is ready for hurricane season because real families depend on this. Real lives are at stake. Democrats focus on the tangible consequences of governance, disaster response, emergency management, preparedness. He asks to see the plan. He checks whether training has resumed. These questions reveal something important. Democrats don't treat hearings as political theater. They treat them as an opportunity to ensure government is functioning, responsive, and prepared to protect the people it serves. What viewers should take from this entire exchange is not just the specific issues at hand, ICE oversight, constitutional rights, FEMA readiness, but the broader truths beneath them. A democracy survives when oversight is respected, not demonized. A democracy functions when constitutional literacy guides leaders, not political wish lists. A democracy protects people when facts matter more than narratives. A democracy stays healthy when power is checked before it grows too comfortable. Andy Kim's approach represents that commitment to the rule of law. He models democratic leadership grounded in care, clarity, and accountability. Noem's approach reveals the risks Democrats warn against: unchecked power, hostility toward oversight, casual disregard for constitutional limits, and a preference for political narratives over factual accountability. The deeper lesson here is simple. When leaders misunderstand or dismiss the Constitution, the public must pay attention. When oversight is reframed as aggression, the public must question why. And when the government suggests it could imprison people without due process, the public must speak up loudly. If you care about protecting democratic norms, about preserving constitutional rights, about ensuring government remains accountable to the people rather than itself, these moments matter. And if you want political commentary that doesn't just tell you what happened, but helps you understand why it matters for our freedoms, our institutions, and our future, stay connected. Democracy depends on informed voices who refuse to look away.